Pakistan has a new army chief and he's widely being debated. Could the choice of army chief change the contours of the India-Pakistan conversation? This as Lieutenant General Qamar Javed Bajwa is a Kashmir hand, a POK hand, a Baluch regiment officer, and someone whom one of our former army chiefs has described as a professional soldier. Joining us now is General Bikram Singh, under whom General Bajwa actually served as part of a United Nations delegation and posting. And with me in the studio is Ambassador Hussain Haqqani, who's of course formerly Pakistan's ambassador to the United States. General Bikram Singh, I'd like to start with you. Tell us a little bit about what you know about Pakistan's new army chief. He actually served under you. You got to know him well. You've called him a professional soldier, but tell us a little bit more.
Yes, Barka, he was with me in 2007-2008 when I was the General Officer commanding of the Eastern Division, a multinational division that was deployed in Eastern Congo with a mandate to ensure peace and stability in the eastern region of Congo. And during my interaction with him, during that tenure when he was under me, I found him to be an upright officer, professional, focused, totally committed to the UN mandate, UN ideals. And that's the reason I said that he was a professional subordinate that I had with me in the Eastern Division.
You know, he's been recorded by Pakistani media, General Bikram Singh, as having said in 2014 that our main enemy is not India, but our enemy within. And it is because of this statement by him that a lot of people are hopeful in India that perhaps he will be have a different philosophy than General Raheel Sharif. Do you think that we have any reason to expect that?
No. Barkha, I don't think so. You see, the point is, no chief of the Pakistan army would like to start a new front. And what is the other front? The other front are the Punjabi terrorist groups of Lashkar-e-Toiba and Jaish-e-Mohammed.
Yes.
I don't think any wise chief would like to do that. With his hands full on the western borders with Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan, no chief would do that. From that point of view, the priority would be toward the Western Front on Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan. But please remember that the relations with Pakistan and India can only improve if Pakistan Army transforms itself into an accountable democratic institution of the state.
Right.
And which is going to take decades. It's not going to happen in a 3 or 4 years tenure of any chief. Because, you know, the present stature of the Pakistan Army, which gives them a privileged position in the society,
yes,
they are not going to like to compromise with that. So therefore, you know, the situation is going to carry on.
Right.
Their strategy, their concept, which India is going to carry on. They're going to continue to bleed Jammu and Kashmir. They're going to continue to sort of nurture Jaish-e-Mohammed and Lashkar-e-Toiba and use them as a strategic resource against India.
Okay.
So I do not visualize any change taking place.
Okay, so let me bring in Ambassador Haqqani here. Couple of things are different though. It is the first time that a Pakistani army chief has quietly retired without getting an extension, the first time in 20 years, I'm told. This is clearly Nawaz Sharif trying to reassert some measure of civilian authority, an authority that most people believe had been taken away from him by the military. How do you see the choice and the very peaceful, seemingly peaceful sort of handover of military power?
Barka, there is widespread recognition in Pakistan, including among people who serve in the armed forces, that the direct intervention of the armed forces in Pakistan's politics has not been good either for Pakistan's politics or for the armed forces. Since General Musharraf extended his own tenure, then General Kiani got an extension, there is a desire overall in Pakistani society to try and build a country which actually follows the norms that are widely practiced in democratic countries. So in that sense, this is a positive development. General Raheel Sharif decided to go at the end of his tenure, and Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif, as the Prime Minister, appointed a successor from amongst the top 3 or 4 candidates.
But is there something in the choice that signals to you that Mr. Sharif, and I mean Nawaz Sharif, is trying to assert himself as Prime Minister again with some authority?
I think the way for Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif to really assert himself would be to ensure that the institutional balance in Pakistan is restored. That is something he alone cannot do. I think that while the choice, of course, is an exercise of his prime ministerial authority.
What does the choice say to you? Baloch regiment, someone who served in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir, the fact that he said that India is not the main enemy.
Look, Barkha, any senior Pakistani military officer will have served at least either in the Pakistani controlled side of Kashmir or along the India-Pakistan border. Pakistan does not have a military the rise of a military career without facing India is virtually impossible. So I won't read too much into those details. Those are headlines for the moment. The fact remains that General Bajwa, like General Rahil Sharif, is a professional soldier with a solid reputation, a person who has not served in political positions. I mean, there are Pakistani military officers who under Musharraf or under General Zia served in political positions. He's not one of them. And so in that sense, he is a professional, but Pakistan needs something more than the change of individuals, either as civilian leaders or as military commanders, to change it. That change has to be an overall change away from Pakistan being a military, militant state with a preoccupation with India, and instead becoming a country that runs according to the constitution, focuses on economic development and the well-being of its people, does not look at external issues from the lens just of the military. Those changes are not going to come about easily or quickly.
So militant state is not going to change with the choice of army chief. It's structural change, power change in the structure that holds Pakistan together.
The structural changes are going to require more than the chief's change. Of course, a good chief can contribute to it. I think previous chiefs have also contributed a little bit. General Musharraf brought some change, General Kiani brought some, General Rahil Sharif made his contribution. I hope General Bajwa makes it too, but the change that is required is far greater than the incremental change we have seen in the last few years.
So, General Bikram Singh, let me push you a little bit more on the fact that, telling us more about the Pakistan Army Chief. You did get to know him personally. He was your subordinate. Of course, in that context, he was, as you said, a thorough professional. But you must have had arguments. You must have had conversations. One does get a sense of how a man may think. What can you share about that? Did he seem as Kashmir obsessed, as India obsessed, as other Pakistani army officers that you may have encountered or heard?
Barkha, are you asking me?
Yes, sir.
Sorry, the acoustics are rather bad, but you see, Barkha, I have met large number of Pakistani army officers, but what stands out about General Bajwa, as I see him from the United Nations experience, that he was a disciplined, a person who would conduct himself as per the laid down norms of United Nations, a person who would uphold the values, the ideals of United Nations all the time, like for example, respect for diversity. I saw that. He never made me feel that I was an Indian general officer commanding when I visited him. In fact, he took pains to brief me, to make sure that I understood what his brigade was doing. And I would say on a number of occasions, he undertook assignments which were beyond the call of routine obligations. But you see, the point is, I just want to bring out that what we are debating now is that will General Bajwa be able to transform the Pakistani military, Pakistani army to make it more accountable, where it understands the primacy of civil control?
Yes.
I do not think so. You see, 3 to 4 years of tenure is grossly inadequate to change the culture of any organization. Cultures are created over decades. Any organization for that matter, be it corporate house, be it the military, it takes decades to create a culture. And to face and change that culture takes decades again. So unless he gets an extended tenure like Pervez Musharraf, or for that matter like Zia-ul Haq, who did 12 years, Pervez Musharraf did 9 years. We had one chief being given an extended tenure. If that kind of extension comes through, perhaps he'll be able to bring about a change, seeing his very positive bent of mind. But given the tenure of 3 to 4 years, I do not visualize any major changes taking place in the culture of the Pakistani army.
Hussain, you wanted to come in?
All I wanted to say was that the general should remember that General Zia-ul Haq and General Musharraf did not have a benign influence by virtue of their extensions. The first person to have a long tenure was General Ayub Khan, who ended up making himself Field Marshal. I think
so you're saying long terms can be poisonous?
I think the good thing is that military officers recognize that they should serve a fixed tenure and go away as soldiers after that fixed tenure. The change I am talking about will require more than just military officers. It requires a change in overall Pakistani thinking. Look, I have written about the Pakistani military. I have been critical of the Pakistani military, but I want to temper that criticism by recognition of a wider reality. It's not just the Pakistani military that pursues constant hostility towards India. It's something that has become endemic in Pakistani society.
No, but it is the Pakistani deep state. The fact is that even if Nawaz Sharif, and I still remember when he became Prime Minister and he gave me an interview and he said, I am the boss I am the leader, the Pakistani chief serves at my pleasure. That's not how it panned out, Hussain.
Absolutely, and that is something that is not going to change because of an individual. It will change only through a general recognition in society. Look, Pakistan is a nation with very few heroes. So everybody agrees on Quaid-e-Azam Muhammad Ali Jinnah as a hero, and then other than that, all we have are military heroes. We need to start recognizing that a successful nation must have successful scientists, successful politicians, successful thinkers, writers. Pakistan is not at that point right now. And General Bajwa, let us not burden him with having to undertake that massive change in society. If all he does is run the military by the book like he served under General Singh in the Congo, I think Pakistan will have moved a little more in a positive direction.
So General Bikram Singh, I wanted to ask you if you ever had an argument with General Bajwa, man to man, person to person, that gave you some sense. You know, I mean, like, I also argue with my Pakistani friends or colleagues that we meet. It gives you some sense of where they stand. I was wondering if you ever had such an argument with him, either on terrorism or Kashmir or the Lashkar-e-Taiba or the Jaish-e-Mohammed, or anything that gives us an insight into the man.
Well, no, Barkha, to be honest with you, in the United Nations, arena, we stick to the mandate. By and large, we don't discuss these things. But conflict, yes, there would have been a number of occasions, and conflict is a healthy sign in any vibrant, any robust organization. And so is the case of United Nations. But yes, maybe over some social gathering, we would have discussed this. But what I want to bring out is, I somehow, while I agree with the hypothesis put across by Ambassador Haqqani, he being a Pakistani national, but I am of the view that it is not the society which has to change. The society will not change. You see, as long as Pakistan army is calling the shot, it has got that primacy, it has got the strength, it has got the might. It is nurturing the Punjabi terrorist tanzeems, and also for that matter other terrorist organizations in Pakistan. It has been able to manipulate a stature for itself in Pakistani society.
Yes.
And that stature is going to only change if the organizational interests people are prepared to compromise with. At the moment, it is the institutional requirement to maintain that primacy. So you don't expect the society doing it. The society very much want a democratic institution of the Pakistani army.
Yes.
But it is the Pakistani army that does not want to become accountable. So it has to start from within the rank and file and the leadership of the Pakistani army. And I do not visualize, notwithstanding or not, for that matter, given the wisdom, the positive attitude, positive inclination of General Bajwa, I do not think in 3 to 4 years he'll be able to bring about any changes which are going to change the stance of Pakistani army vis-a-vis the national polity and the civil control.
I have time just for a last comment, and I think that's a really important point. You said if General Bajwa just plays by the military book, that's enough. But the military book also involves not cracking down on the Lashkar-e-Taiba, letting Hafiz Saeed roam with impunity, playing hot and cold with the Jaish-e-Mohammed and so on. And General Bajwa today targeted in sections of the Pakistani social media for having an Ahmadi relative, I think speaks to the real crisis within Pakistan. And that's the crisis apart from the power structure. So quick last word.
That's what I meant when I said that the society also has to change. So I do not disagree with the general on the subject of the military changing.
It has to cede power.
The military has to cede power and change its own worldview. But now, at this stage, 70 years later, or at least 60 years since the first military intervention in Pakistan's politics, we are at a point where the Pakistani society has become influenced by the thinking of the original Pakistani generals who took over. And Pakistani society's militarist element has now become an element, an influence on the military. And to change that is a much bigger project than just something that an army chief can do. I hope the General Bajwa, Prime Minister Sharif, opposition politicians and social leaders can all work together on an agenda to change Pakistan significantly. Pakistan needs to reimagine itself as a nation instead of going through the same motions over and over again.
We leave it there. Ambassador Hussain Haqqani, General Bikram Singh, a very interesting conversation, but no quick fix solution, certainly not just with the change of an individual. Thank you so much for joining us on the Buck Stops here.